Ever wonder what attorneys include in surrogacy contracts that make them different from, well, any other contracts? Well, stick around and we'll talk about it. What's up? I'm Corlandos Scott, a surrogacy attorney in Los Angeles whose practice focuses on helping people grow their family through surrogacy. And in today's episode, we're going to talk about what I spend a good deal of time doing: drafting surrogacy contracts. We're going to talk about key elements of a contract, and we'll look at terms included in surrogacy contracts. Now, before we can talk about what's in a surrogacy contract, we should first understand what exactly is a contract and what are the key elements of any contract. Now, in basic terms, a contract is a written or spoken agreement that's intended to be enforceable by law. Now, the words that are inside of the contract, they really define and govern the rights and the duties and the responsibilities of the parties who are coming into agreement in the contract. Now, there are a few key elements of any valid contract that I want to highlight for our purposes today. And they are offer and acceptance, consideration, and the arm's length principle. Offer and acceptance is generally recognized as essential requirements for the formation of a contract. You can't have a contract if you don't have an offer and somebody to accept it. The concept of offer and acceptance identifies that moment during the contract formation process when the two parties are of one mind. Literally, they're on the same page. So offer and acceptance is one of those big hurdles. But you also need consideration for a contract to be valid. What's consideration? Well, consideration is a promise of something of value given by one party in exchange for something of value given by the other party. Typically, how this pans out in most contracts is, things of value are goods, money, or even acts or purposes. As a side note, forbearance to act or forbearance to do something, like agreeing to refrain from doing something, that's also valid consideration. Now, that's as long as what the person is giving up is something that they'd otherwise have the legal right to do. You can't make a contract and say, I agree to refrain from, shooting someone, because it's illegal for you to do that. So if you choose to give up something that you have the legal right to do, that can also be considered consideration. So you have offer and acceptance, and you also have consideration. But one of the other things that I think is key to the surrogacy contracting process is the arm's length principle. Now, the arm's length principle is the fact that the parties of a transaction are independent and they're on equal footing. So when the arm's length principle is in full effect, that means that both parties, they're able to come to the table with equal bargaining power and equal negotiating power. There's no party that's more powerful than the other party. They're both equal in this bargain. And this principle is key to contract law because it's what helps ensure that a contract will stand up to legal scrutiny in court. A court can look at the contract and say the contract is valid in part because both parties had equal power to negotiate it. Now, here's a pro tip, and this is why you always want your donor or your surrogate to have her own separate legal counsel, because you want your contract to stand up to scrutiny by being able to say it was negotiated at arm's length. She had a legal professional help her understand it. So these are a few key points about contracts in general. So it would stand to reason that surrogacy contracts, in addition to addressing the specifics of surrogacy, they should also contain these key elements of any valid contract, right? So let's look at the specifics of surrogacy contracts. Before we look at the specifics of surrogacy contracts, let's take a button smashing break. Yeah, go ahead and smash that like button. Smash it like it stole your milk money or something like that. Yeah, just smash it. Let YouTube know to share this video with a few other people. Also, go ahead and subscribe while you're at it. That way, you won't miss out on any of my upcoming videos and the shenanigans and tomfoolery that I put in them. So, surrogacy contract specifics. Yes, a surrogacy contract is just like any other contract in that it defines the rights and the obligations of the parties that they agreed upon and the terms that bind the parties to the agreement and all that good stuff. But what makes it different is, aside from being governed or sanctioned by the laws of contracts, its fate is also determined by the surrogacy laws in the state that it's written in, or for some places you could say lack of surrogacy laws in the state that it might be written in. So that leads to the question, what's in the contract? Well, let's look at what's in the contract. Well, the agreement of the parties is what's in the contract. The intended parents and the surrogate both have rights and responsibilities, and that's what the contract should address. The contract should also address current and applicable laws that apply to the state that the contract is being drafted in or that the contract is being governed by. So we have to make sure that we're abiding by the laws where you want this thing to be enforceable. The contract should also address medical consent. Now, these are provisions that allow testing for any medical conditions or communicable diseases, and you have to make sure that the surrogate is agreeing to give her consent to these medical procedures. And this is key because before the doctor will ever do a transfer, the consent to have the embryos transferred has to be in place. No doctor is going to take the risk of transferring embryos without knowing that the proper permission has been given. The contract should also discuss the medical risks and any legal implications of the process. So another big ticket item in the contract, of course, is the finances. We want to see each party's obligation to pay for costs and expenses during the surrogacy journey. You also want to make sure that the surrogate's benefits and compensation package is reflected in the contract the same way that it was outlined by the matching agency when you decided that this is what you wanted to do and you wanted to match with this surrogate. Now, one stone that we can't leave unturned in the contract is the issue of parentage. What good would a contract be around surrogacy if it didn't address your parentage? Now, many states have specific legal statutes on the books that define how to establish the parental rights in a surrogacy arrangement. And you want the contract to reflect whatever law is on the books regarding parentage, right? So when we're talking about parentage being reflected in the contract, we also want to make sure that anything the surrogate needs to do to help you prove or help you validate your rights as a parent, make sure she's agreeing to do it in the contract. So the process for obtaining whatever documents are necessary to establish and declare that you are the rightful parents, the surrogate should be willing to help you and willing to sign a contract that says that she is going to accompany you to wherever you need to go or assist you in whatever capacity she needs to assist you in order for her to help you get the legal rights to parentage. Now, this also factors into it, but it should go without saying you want the contract to declare explicitly that the surrogate and her partner or spouse are not the parents of the child to be born and have no interest or desire to be the parents. This is especially important in cases where the surrogate may be a member of a Native American tribe. Now, more on that in a different video, but if your surrogate is a registered member of a Native American tribe or is even eligible to be a registered member, there may be additional legal considerations that you need to make in order to ensure that the tribe won't have rights to be the custodian or the guardian of the child that's born through the surrogacy. I'll give you a quick hint. There's something in federal law called the Indian Child Welfare Act that gives Native American tribes the right to be guardians over children born into the tribal heritage. So that's why you want to double check that. There's also some considerations that we include in the contract that may be a bit rare or unusual, but it's important that we include them nonetheless. We want clarity in the agreement regarding difficult topics like the event of the death of the surrogate and the obtaining of a life insurance policy for her in the event that that were to happen. I mean, we talk about what happens if the intended parents die or separate or divorce. That's not entirely comfortable, but we have to address it. We cover the contingency of what happens if the surrogate needs to be placed on life support. Will she be willing to do that in order to let the child complete the gestational phase and be delivered? And last but not least, we make sure the contract addresses what happens if a party breaches the terms of the contract. Yes, a breach is really just a fancy legal word that means you did something you weren't supposed to do, or you didn't do something you were supposed to do, or something that you guaranteed you didn't do it. Now, you can look at it as just not living up to your promises in the contracts or your responsibilities in the contracts. And a good attorney is going to spell out what happens in case of a breach. Well, if the surrogate breaches the contract in any way that causes you to lose your baby, what are her obligations to you? What are your obligations to her? What do you do with regards to payments? What do you do with being reimbursed the money that you've already spent on this surrogacy journey? Make sure you must have the contract cover all of this. Now, the most important aspect of having an experienced surrogacy attorney draft your surrogacy contract is that a valid contract will allow you to establish the fact legally that you are the baby's parents. And what makes a surrogacy contract valid are the terms in which the contract is drafted and making sure that there is a body of law that supports that contract. So if you want to learn more about the surrogacy process in general, no matter where you are, get something that I have for you that's free for you, from me to you. It's my free Surrogacy Secret Seminar, where I walk you through how to navigate the surrogacy process without losing sleep, time, or money. I even share with you some case studies from former clients of mine that is going to surely help you know certain things to look out for and help you avoid things that maybe they didn't avoid before we found each other. So make sure if you want that, just click the link below and I'll see you there.